Hey everybody, April 5th, 2022. Yeah, I'm tripping. Sports Counterpoints podcast. We're back. Thanks everybody for tuning in, YouTube or your favorite podcast platform. If you're on YouTube, per my cousin, give us a like, subscribe. I hate saying it, but y'all understand it. It helps us grow. So appreciate everybody who checks us out. I'm GB. Got Brian and Coop on the lines on the video. What's happening, brothers?
What's going on?
Hey, what's happening?
Man, back to it, like we do about this time. So today's show, we got a pretty good one for you. We'll be talking about March Madness. Had a great title game. Unless you're an NC fan, we'll talk about Coach K and his legacy. We'll talk about the kabooms that are happening to these NBA teams as teams implode, and also the Masters and a feature participant. So starting with March Madness, man, great tournament. We started out at your crib, Brian. Absolutely fabulous tournament in my opinion, and culminates in a great title game last night. So what you guys think, man?
Yeah, so this was one of the best overall March Madness tournaments that I can remember. We talked about it before. There wasn't anyone who was going into the tournament as a dominant force that you were just certain was going to run away with it. To that point, in the bracket that all of us did with some other folks, nobody picked Kansas. Nobody picked North Carolina. Not even the person who created the bracket and went to North Carolina picked North Carolina. There was a lot of really great games. In the first two weekends, some of the Baylor North Carolina game might have been one of the best games that we saw through the entire tournament. North Carolina UCLA was a very exciting and interesting. There were just so many great basketball games that kind of brought you to the edge. There was enough upsets, like the University of Miami with a couple of upsets, and it really was all around outstanding. I did not know that Remy Martin was in Kansas, and so I've mentioned it before. Remy Martin went to Sierra Canyon with my son. Talk about super senior. My son is 2 years post graduation from college, fully employed and out in the world, and Remy's still in his senior year. But there's an interesting story about Remy that kind of is relevant. He used to play in Arizona, and so he played on the Arizona team that knocked out the number 2 ranked Kansas team and the number 1 ranked Kansas team in his freshman and sophomore years. In both games, he performed quite well, even though he wasn't a superstar. And in this instance, he also performed quite well with a perfect second half on the Kansas team. So he sent 2 Kansas teams home and ultimately helped provide one with a championship. Anyways, great games all around. Obviously, it was an amazing experience to have everybody back at the house for a true March Madness experience. It's been a couple of years. In some instances, I hadn't seen people since the last time we had March Madness, so it was good to have people around and great games. Jason, what did you think about the overall experience, and then maybe we could talk about the championship game itself?
So, I don't watch college basketball during the regular season. Won't stop me from betting on it, but I don't watch it during the regular season. I only watch during March Madness, of course, with you guys at the house and at your house. And I like the tournament a lot. We didn't have a lot of upsets, but we had enough good upsets. And in the end, Brian, to be perfectly honest with you, much like in college football, I think we got the 2 best teams at this time in college basketball playing for the title, which always, makes it for a better title game. It was good to see St. Peter's and to know their mascot name, the Peacocks. You know what I'm saying? How they, they beat Kentucky. And, you mentioned Miami. North Carolina, I wouldn't say surprised me. I didn't think they were all that good of a team, but they had some very favorable matchups in the tournament that they took advantage of against Miami, UCLA, St. Peter's, and a couple others I'm missing. But Villanova, they definitely missed. There was a mismatch with Villanova. But Kansas, we'll talk about it later. But Remy Martin, man, he's those players like Remy Martin. They're not superstars, not overly talented, but they're gamers, and those people are important. And you need those kind of guys to win not only NCAA championships, but also NBA championships as well as guys who step up in the moment's not too big. So Remy Martin, man, if it wasn't for him, I don't think Kansas would have won that game. not
Yeah, I
at
mean,
all.
he led the team in scoring throughout all of the first two rounds. The two weekends of the tournament,
Yep.
all the way up to the Elite Eight. He was the person who led led them in the Final Four and in the championship game. It was, what is it? His name is Agbaji,
Yeah.
um, but or Agbaji or McCormick. And but yeah, Remy really stepped up. He went into this tournament as a either undrafted or late second rounder, and I think that he absolutely did enough, especially with a perfect second half, to come back from the largest deficit in an NCAA championship game of 16 points. But he did enough to get himself in the solid second round, draft pick. If I would be shocked and disappointed in a lot of teams that could really use a very solid backup point guard who I could see in the league for a very long time in that role, not as a superstar or an all-star or anything like that. In Remy, so I'm obviously rooting for him, but to go score 14 points with a perfect second half, to come down from back from a 16 under, make a lot of key and clutch shots to help that team win a championship was great. So since we're kind of transitioning into it, obviously it was a tale of two halves. North Carolina jumped on him with both feet, looked outstanding. I totally understand why after the Duke game a couple days ago that they were in a letdown moment, because they just had to expel so much energy to win such an important game, probably one of the most important Final Four games ever when you think about it being Coach K's last game, when you think about it being North Carolina versus Duke. All of those factors made that game just huge. So, and they came out with tons of energy, and so you were like, okay, they got over the hangover part, but they just didn't get over the injuries that they came in there with. When Baycott got hurt, he was limping a little earlier in the game, but when he got to the point in the late in the second half where he got hurt, and some of the other players were kind of dinged up, and the energy levels were down, and then the momentum was gone because Kansas had launched the comeback. You kind of felt bad for them, but they were definitely playing with house money as an eighth seed in the national championship game. They played great basketball, and if you played that game 5 times with them fully healthy, you probably get to a game 5 where that one game would decide it. What about you, Jason?
Yeah, I thought I didn't have a dog in the fight like I told you guys. I had the under 153 in that game. The reason why, if I had to have a gun to my head and pick a team, it would have been Kansas. But the reason why I would have picked Kansas was because of coaching. I just think Bill Self is an underrated college basketball coach, much like I thought Bill or Jim Calhoun for UConn was. Jim Calhoun was a really good basketball coach, in my opinion. And I don't think he ever got the credit he deserved. I know all the talk has been about Coach K, but there are a few other, really good coaches. I think Bill Self is one of them. I think this is like his second national title now at Kansas. And his teams are not, I would say overly talented, but they play together and they're coached well. And I think the difference in this game in the second half and the first half was he definitely made some adjustments in the second half, and he came out attacking North Carolina to start the game. And I think they went on like an 11-0 run, 11-2 run or something like that. They just attacked the big guys, and that helped swing momentum. I think one of the reasons why they didn't have momentum in the first half is because Remy sat for to me a long period of time, and that offense was stagnant. They couldn't score points. So when Remy was in that game, that offense it was churning. And so I gotta give Bill, of course, Kansas team, but gotta give Bill Self a lot of credit for adjustments and getting his team back in the game. They started out running in the second half, and once the game got close, and they started their half court offense, and it was an either or game at that point. And then Kansas ended up winning. But I'm not gonna lie, when that guy stepped out of bounds for Kansas, I was kind of hoping that North Carolina shot a 3 and made it just to go to overtime. But then I remember I had a bet for under 153. So it's like, yeah, I'm going to need you to miss that. And I was pretty mad that he stepped out of bounds. But either way, I think we had the 2 best teams. It was a really good game. North Carolina, I know they were upset. North Carolina fans know they're upset. But like you said, they were playing with house money as an AFC getting this far. They could have stole a game, but Kansas overall was the better team, better coach team. Not a huge fan of Hubert Davis. He might be bad. His team plays a little bit to be that talented, plays a little bit undisciplined at times. But at the same time, I think this is his first year coaching, so he's still learning. And to get to the national championship game your first year, I mean, that's an accomplishment right there. And he was on his way to earning the quickest contract extension in the history of college basketball had he won that game. But yeah, so good game. You know, hats off to both teams. Glenn, what you think about the game?
I thought it was great, man. Like Brian said, the whole tournament was really good. So this just fell right in line with that, right? Like North Carolina was hot, hot coming out the gates, playing really well, had a big lead on them, and then, you know, halftime comes, and that's, you know, that third quarter is going to be a big deal, right? How are you going to come out? How are you going to bounce back? What adjustments do you make? Like you said, I was texting friends that were North Carolina fans, you know, as the half was in, and like, okay, y'all are rolling, you know, you got a good chance. And one of my boys was saying that he was like, man, I just don't like big leads because teams can kind of let off. And he was right. Basketball's a game of runs. So, you know, Kansas came out, did what they had to do, topped off by, you know, the drink sponsor, Remy Martin. And yeah, they did their thing, man. So it was a great end to a great tournament, in my opinion. Like Brian said, probably definitely one of the most memorable tournaments for sure, just coming off of COVID and being back with all the family watching the games. But the games themselves were like fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't remember too many that were just, we skipped a few, you know, we're barbecuing or swimming with, but for the most part, every game we watched was some kind of intrigue. There was some kind of, you know, something you wanted to watch for, and those young men performed. So it was cool. And shout out to, I mean, I know we're going to go to Coach K, but also shout out to South Carolina's women's team and Coach John Staley.
Yeah.
Love to see it, bro. Love to see it. And as they win the national championship, well deserved.
You know,
so
speaking of that, just because it's a good opportunity, two teams were expected to win the national championship in 2020, the season that was where the tournament was canceled. And that was South Carolina and that was Kansas. And they were the massive favorites to win the national championship that year. And both of them won this year. So, you know, a little bit of poetic justice, or, you know, society of getting it back. But
they beat UConn, right?
Yeah.
See, I never knew that UConn Junior Armiana never lost a national championship game. I never knew that.
That's fire.
He was undefeated in national championship games.
But he'd also never gotten there as anything other than a 1 seed.
True.
And this was like a big upset for them to get there. I mean, they had lost 5 games. You know, their best player had been injured and was also injured. And look, so I watched that game just as intently as I watched the men's national championship. It was a great basketball game. Unfortunately, South Carolina came out there, just jumped down their throat, jumped to a 14-point lead early. And just while UConn got composed and played them even for the rest of the game, they could make a little bit of a headway into it, and then it would just go right back. And that 14 number was basically where it laid for the entire rest of the game. So that slow start by UConn really kind of did them in. But that was a really interesting game. Her name is Leah Boston. She is a you know, woman amongst girls. You know, they always say boys amongst men. She's got that David McCormick build from Kansas. I mean, she was just pounding people in the paint, and we had a nice touch on her finish.
Yeah, shout out to Coach Staley, man. I was really excited to see her win it.
Yeah, she's a ball. She was a baller too. Dawn Staley was a baller. Yes,
was
as
she?
Point guard. Yeah, she was good.
Was she filthy, bro? So that was cool. So yeah, I thought it was a great tournament. You know, shout out to the women too. And women of South Carolina who won the national championship. And we slide into, you know, Coach K, man, his legacy. What does he mean to y'all? What do you think? You know, where does he fit? You know, Coach K in general, man. What y'all think?
B, what you think about him? Is he the greatest coach ever?
No.
College?
No. But you know, there's a lot of things that I take into account when I say that. But no, first of all, if we're talking about forever, it's John Wooden hands down, period. Just full stop. Because they didn't have the ability to recruit like they do now. They didn't have the kind of money in the programs that they do now. People went to UCLA because the best coach in the country was John Wooden, and they wanted to learn from John Wooden. Coach K has that, but a lot of what he has is the R and the things that come with it. I mean, You go there because, Duke's got a ton of money in the program. It's a very good school. The exposure that you're going to get to USA men's basketball teams because he was the coach of it. The ability to put you in the pros, almost a guarantee, even though, Duke basketball players do not have the best history from any college. You're going to go pro if you go to Duke as one of those top five players, and a lot of people go there. So the recruiting job for Duke, it was a huge leg up for Coach K. When it comes to like best coaches just right now, so take out John Wooden because that's obviously a long time ago. Jay Wright is an outstanding coach. There are a lot of really good, Bill Self, you mentioned it, are really outstanding coaches who have to do more with less. And to me, there's a difference in coaching. When I coached many moons ago, I never wanted to have all the superstar kids on my team because that wasn't really a necessarily great coaching experience. That was a roll a ball out there and tell them what play to run type of experience, and then they kind of would go and do it, as opposed to coaching where you're developing talent and all of that. And I think that Coach Izzo, Self, Wright, there's been some other folks who have done better jobs coaching the players up than Coach K. Is he the most credentialed? Absolutely. Does he deserve the accolades that he gets? Sure. But John Wooden is hands down my number one best college coach ever, if you're asking that question. Jason?
Okay, so I think John Wooden, is very good. I think that Coach K is the greatest college coach ever in history. John Wooden, he did win 10 national titles. I don't think anybody's ever going to catch that, but he did coach 15 years without winning his first national title, and it wasn't until he came in contact with that recruit with that one, I would say, booster who funneled players to UCLA, and that's when he started winning his national titles. That's taking nothing away from John Wooden. I mean, you have to be able to coach talent to win, and he was definitely able to do it. But Coach K, yes, he only has 5 national titles compared to John Wooden's 10, but he's at Duke, and Duke doesn't recruit all players. They only have a specific pool of players that they can recruit to the school because that player has to fit academically and socially at Duke. I also think that Coach K coaches in a much tougher era. He has the one and dones to deal with, transfers. If you don't like a school, you transfer and go somewhere else. You got more schools paying and bidding for players. Pretty much everybody's doing that now, and that's what AAU is technically for, to help get access to paying people to get access to players. You got these mid-majors now that John wouldn't have to deal with that are more viable, like Gonzaga, even though they didn't win the championship last year or never won a championship, they're still a viable, school to go against. Butler for 2 years in a row went to the national championship game. And some of these mid-majors, they have legitimate NBA players on there, but not just NBA players, but just starters like John Morant, who was at Murray State, or Steph Curry, who took Davidson to the Elite Eight. Coach K also beat that undefeated UNLV team in the Final Four, who everybody thought would roll Duke like they did the year before in the championship game. That was a great team. And that year, after they beat UNLV, they beat Kansas for his first national title. He also beat the Fab Five the following year. So I just think that Fab Five the following year to win the national title. So I just think that I have to look at the body of work and what Coach K had to deal with, whereas where John Wooden, he didn't have to deal with all that. The people just leaving and doing their own thing, all these schools paying players and then mid-majors and all that. You have to deal with all that. The tournament was smaller and everything. So it's taken nothing away from either coach. But I think because of the body of work in the last 30 years, how college basketball has definitely changed, I think that Coach K is the greatest college basketball coach ever. But if anybody made an argument for John Wooden, I wouldn't vehemently deny that as well. But I just feel Coach K is.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say is that there's only one national program that has academic standards that you have to meet in order to go to the school.
Stanford.
Stanford.
Yes.
Yeah,
Stanford.
It's not Duke.
Right. Stanford.
There are players that I have known personally who could not read and went to Duke.
Okay, so I wasn't going to go there, and I probably know a couple that you're talking about. I wasn't going to go there, but they still have to fit in a little bit socially and academic. But I get what you're saying. You're definitely right. You're definitely.
I think that's true in the past. In the one and done era, you're there for 4 months,
Yeah.
really 3.5.
Yeah.
They load you up with, with a bunch of classes,
Yeah.
and then one of two things happen. You either are that good and you go pro, or you transfer out.
Yeah.
You look at guys like Bagley and Thornton, and like the last 5 to 10 years, which has been mostly one and done.
Yeah.
For top players, you really never had to get to the point where you had that academic success that you had to before. But Stanford has always maintained that, which is why it's always amazing when they field a team, usually more in football than basketball, that's competitive. I mean, I can't remember the last time they've been competitive in basketball.
Right, and probably the Collins twins, I think. But to Brian's point, for those who don't know, Stanford is the only school that does not offer you an athletic scholarship until you've academically qualified to get into the school. Stanford is the only school that does that. That's their
I was saying the Collins twins went to Harvard Westlake with very strong academic program.
Right. And they went to Stanford. I think that's the last time they went to the Final Four. But so but Glenn, you got any thoughts? Coach K, Wooden, anybody you think is underrated, overrated? I think Jim Boeheim's overrated at Syracuse, but that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of guys I think of, but just to kind of just speak to Coach K in this situation, I was kind of looking at his record and kind of what he did, and Coach K's record is kind of, I mean, he coached 46 years total, which is already amazing. He's 1,202 and 367. That's a 76% winning percentage. At Duke, he has a 78% win percentage. 1,100 games won to 300 games lost.
Who's number two?
He's
Jim Boeheim.
I don't. Oh, nice.
Still don't like him.
Hilarious.
I know.
I mean, I give Jim Boeheim props for coaching in a city that looks like a women's prison, but I give him credit for that. But other than that, that's another conversation.
Yeah, just kind of looking at the record, and I mean, taking teams to Sweet 16, Final Four, Sweet 16. Like the other thing I got to give Coach K, like you said, Team USA, coaching there, gold medals, what he's done for the game, what he's meant to the game, and he's kept Duke relevant. 46 years, you know what I mean? 40, 50, 30 years at least. Like every year of my life, Duke has been relevant in college basketball, and Coach K is a large factor in that, right? So, I mean, I give him his props. He's had a lot of players go to the league, like you guys said. I think his best player to go to the league had his career shortened by injuries, and Grant Hill. But I mean, JJ Redick had a hell of a career, and Kyrie, and there's a bunch of dudes who went there and balled out. So I give Coach K his props, man. I hope retirement's good to him, and it'll be interesting to see what this new era brings as far as North Carolina getting a new coach and Duke getting a new coach, and people get a new opportunity to kind of create their own legacy. So shout out to Coach K, man. I hope
I have a question for you, Jason. Do you think the Duke program is any good going forward?
You just said that. I was about to answer that, but go ahead. Continue your question. Go ahead.
Because I mean, they do have academic standards. Coach K was the reason why kids went there. They have their massive amount of money. It's not North Carolina. North Carolina is an institution. They've had other coaches there who have been, good, bad, otherwise. There's they can go through them. Duke was Coach K. Coach K was Duke.
Yep.
So he's gone, and Wojo or whoever which I can't remember the assistant coach is going to.
Yeah, Wojciechowski. Wojo. Yeah.
One of his assistant coaches is taking over. Do you think that they can do that? I mean, it's because you said the academic and the social and all that kind of stuff. Without Coach K, can they still?
And I was going to add my 2 cents in before you answer that question. You must have been reading my mind. But when Dean Smith left North Carolina, I thought North Carolina was going to be fine. And they ended up getting Roy Williams and Guthridge, and they got other people, and they were cool. Duke, not so much. I don't think Duke is going to be fine. I think this is I know this probably seems bad to say, but I think Duke is going down the toilet now. I don't think that because I mean, to me, when I think of Duke, I think of Coach K. So I don't know of any other reason to go to Duke to play for Wojo or whoever. And there was a period of time where Coach K didn't get the talent because he was against one and dones, and then when he finally embraced it, he started getting some talent back in there. If they get the right coach, maybe it can happen, but I don't think who they have on the staff right now taking over is the right person to try to build on Coach K's legacy. And if you're going to take over a Duke program, the worst time you can actually do it is when Coach K is retiring. I think entry point for coaches, I've talked about this before, is very important. And I think coming in after Coach K is that's a tough position to be in.
And the person that looks like they picked was John Shire.
Never heard of
It
him.
hasn't
Did he
been
play for
officially
him?
announced.
He played for Duke, right?
They really wanted this hire to stay within the program. But anyways, and then I don't know if you guys saw this earlier today, but Jay Williams came out and said he still thinks there's a legitimately strong chance that Coach K decides to come back next year.
I don't think he does.
Yeah, I mean, he'd have to be pretty convinced that recruiting class next year is what
we'll
it
win
is.
Him a title, right?
He's going to win him a title, but that's the only reason.
And wait, there's another coach that I like. I think he's a little, I would say, over the top in some of the things that have happened during his coaching tenure, but he can coach basketball. That's Rick Pitino. I've always liked Rick Pitino as a coach.
I was going to say,
just coach.
I agree with you as a coach.
Okay.
Except for when he tried to coach in the NBA, that was just
right. That was disaster. I'm talking about college.
Yeah. But I think, there's no program that can touch him.
Well, no, he's coaching.
He's at program.
Real program. Right. Okay. Right. He's at Iona. Right. Exactly. A real program.
There's no real program that can
once you have a brothel on campus.
Yeah. They need somebody that there's no way that they could ever have women or money anywhere near him.
Right.
Damn, that's tough. Ain't Iona a Keith Sweat line?
It's in New York too. But yeah.
Set up out here.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, no, shout out to Coach K, man. I think he everything you guys said just really speaks to his legacy to me. Like he was the program for all those years. So it's a big void to fill, and we'll see what they do, man. But shout out to Coach K, and then moving on to from college to the pros, and just kaboom, teams blowing up. A lot of teams are on the upswing, but not ours. So Brian had this topic and idea of kind of these teams that are kind of imploding and catching fires are coming to earth at the end of the season. But kind of what do you guys think, man? You guys could just throw it out.
Well,
like, who you guys?
I'll start with the Warriors. We can just start with there, and Brian, you go with the next team, man.
Hilarious.
So with the Warriors, I said in the earlier pod, I think even before we were on YouTube, I said the Warriors are peaking too early. They're beating all these bad teams and a couple good teams early in the season to start off, 21-3, 21-2, whatever the case may be. They started playing better teams, and sometimes they're playing not so good teams, and they're losing games. It's always a bad thing to me to peak so early, much like the Arizona Cardinals did in football last year, starting off 9-0, then torpedoing down. The Warriors, they're still a playoff team, of course, but they just don't have any size to compete for a championship. I don't think any one of us bought that whole Klay Thompson is back, they're going to start winning championships or get close to winning a championship. We never bought into that nonsense. Klay Thompson hasn't played in 2 years, and he's a one-way player now. He doesn't really play defense that well as he did before. He's pretty much all offense. And sometimes I think with this team, he needs to be offense because this team needs points. So he has to chuck the ball up and score. But the Warriors, I said before, the dynasty was over when Kevin Durant left. I think championships, Warriors never been a big free agent destination. Durant just picked the Warriors due to the fact he wanted to win titles and people can think he was better than LeBron. The Warriors, since Durant hasn't gotten any free agent before or after of any significance. So they're still a decent team, a viable team, fun to watch at times, but championship team, no. And what's happening to them now is really not surprising. And if they go to the playoffs and play a team like Phoenix or a team with some size or like Utah or something, they're going to have a lot of trouble. What do you think, B?
So I agree with the end result, but not how they got there. So they're clearly imploding. I mean, they just won 2 games and people are like, oh, they're coming back. They're not. They lost, 4 in a row before 1 win with the Heat and then another 3 in a row for that. So that means they lost 7 of their last 8 before this 2-game winning streak. But the reason is the injuries. And they peaked, but they could have been fine if not for 2 different things. One, they suffered a lot of injuries. Weissman, Curry got hurt. Who else got hurt?
Draymond
was hurt. Yeah. Wiggins was hurt for a while. And then you added them trying to force bringing Thompson back in to the lineup, and they were, Curry was killing it. He was just otherworldly, playing at a clear MVP level until Thompson came back, and he wanted to try and get him involved. So he started passing up shots and opportunities. He stopped trying to be the focus of the offense. And you add that to the other injuries, and they stumbled. And the problem with the stumble was there's only two things you can do from the stumble. You can run a little bit faster and catch up and gain your footing again, or you can go smack into a wall. And they did the latter. So they're going to make the playoffs. I mean, they're a 3 seed right now. There's no danger of that. But I think that there's going to be a lot of astute people who are willing to pick against them playing in the first round. I mean, the 3rd seed, they get a play-in team, which looks like it's going to be the Pelicans. Because
they're 3rd. They get a 6th seed if they're 3rd. They get the 6th.
Right.
No, they play 6.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
They get the Jazz, which I know they're going to lose to.
Right.
That's great because you get the 8th, the 7th, and the 6th.
Yeah.
But the other thing that's going on, I don't think they have the ability to go deep. The better question will be whether or not they'll be a first round upset. Yeah. And I think that's a distinct possibility because all the teams that they're slated to play in that, any of them, Phoenix, Grizzlies, Mavericks, Nuggets, and Jazz, have all beat them pretty consistently in the last month or so. Anyways, we'll move on to the other team in California, the Lakers. They are currently
15th seed.
No, they are currently about 30 minutes away from their season being over. Yeah. So San Antonio won today. So if San Antonio won and they lose, they're eliminated from the playoffs. LeBron isn't playing. They're down 5 at halftime. So, Westbrook is shooting a lot. That's usually a pretty bad sign for the team and their future. But look, I don't know if this team imploded as much as it just never came together. We all said it, or at least 2 of the 3 of us were convinced very early that Westbrook there was no chance they were going to win with Westbrook on that team. I get into this debate or argument all the time, and people want to say, well, injuries and all this other stuff. I said, look, it never mattered. The minute Westbrook got there, there was no chance that they were going to be able to bring this together. Losing, if he leaves, it's addition by subtraction. And I honestly believe that just him not being here would have been enough for them to get into the playoffs. Would it have been enough to win a championship? I don't know. But him not being here would have been enough to get them into the playoffs. Now, obviously, Davis getting hurt for a period of time and LeBron getting hurt for a period of time and now Nunn being hurt for a period of time. And I mean, we got players that never even played a game this season. And that we counted on. So there's clearly a lot of reasons why things didn't work out, Malik Monk, but there's one big reason, and that's Westbrook. And I know people think that we're picking on him. He really is just that bad a basketball player. I mean, he is clearly talented and can score through the roof. And I do not believe I would vote for him, but I believe others will vote for him to go to the Hall of Fame for all the triple doubles and the points and everything else. And but he is just not that guy. He is not the guy. If there's, he's, people are willing to accept Kyrie's crazy and he's nuts. Nobody wants to deal with Russell Westbrook's crazy for any extended period of time.
Well, Kyrie can shoot, Russell can't, so that's kind of a
Boston would have re-signed Kyrie if he wanted to. He didn't want to. Right. Yeah. There's no chance that anybody's trying to re-sign Russell Westbrook.
Yeah, NBA is a shooters league, and he's not a shooter, so that's not going to. Russell, I was under the assumption we weren't winning the title as soon as Russell Westbrook got signed to the team, and I agree. If Russell Westbrook wasn't on the team, we would definitely be a playoff team because history has shown teams have gotten better. Wizards, Oklahoma City, down the line, Houston, whatever. Well, not Houston. They pretty much blew up the team, but Oklahoma City. All they did was swap point guards, Russell Westbrook for Chris Paul. Boom, they're in the playoffs. So Wizards were playing better as well. They actually just won today. But yeah, I'm with you, man. The season was over as soon as we signed Westbrook. A lot of people want to defend his stats, but don't look at his style of play or what he does in clutch moments of the game. We need buckets or he needs somebody to lead the team. He's just not that guy. So I've already tempered my expectations months ago. I don't even watch the Lakers when they play anymore. I'm just tired of I'm just tired of the nonsense, defense or I don't just can't talk about it. But one last thing. I was listening to Sam Ullman, who's a Lakers beat writer a couple of days ago, and he was stating that most people in the league feel that Frank Vogel won't be coaching the Lakers next year, and they don't necessarily blame him for what happened with the Lakers. And I don't blame him either. Brian, I don't think you do as well. But he definitely will be employed by somebody next year if he wants to coach. And this guy also said when LeBron came back the other day, he has an ankle injury, I believe, and he came back up there, had scored 30-something points. He said that LeBron had to go through a lot just to play in that game where everybody knew in the Lakers organization that he was not going to play the next game. He just couldn't, especially with that bad ankle. So people think LeBron is out because maybe he wants to be out or whatever, but from what I understand, he's just too hurt to play. And plus, at this age, it's just taking him a lot longer to recover. And the fact that we're leaning so much on LeBron is a sad thing as well, because LeBron has about 20 years on him. We can't be leaning on that guy like that. But yeah, the Lakers, I mean, look, I don't want us in the playing game. Just try to retool the roster or do something different the following season and just kind of go away quietly and let everybody else get talked about.
And you only have another half of the season even matter.
Yeah, exactly. Right. GB, any thoughts on the Lakers? You were the more optimistic of all three of us.
Yeah, but I didn't. At the same time, I didn't watch not a game. I was just thinking that you had the names to do something. It didn't matter. So yeah, this ain't it. I do lean on as much as we're talking. I do notice that I do recognize this. I'm spoiled and I'm thankful for my dad for making me a Laker fan, because I'm also privileged in that I'm literally 2 years off a championship. So I mean, I was wearing a Lakers 2020 championship shirt when I was down there with y'all. It's only 2 years, right? Plenty of teams wish to have any of the success we have. Now, next year, we'll see what happens. They're going to have to retool. I don't know what's going to happen to Pelinka, Vogel, etc. I did hear someone mention Doc Rivers. I really don't want Doc Rivers, but I mean, and that's just shout out to Doc, respect. It's just because of the record and what I've seen, like in games you're supposed to win, clutch games, they just can't do it with Doc there. So the 1-1 with the Celtics, and that's been carrying them. So, but anyway, yeah, I don't, it's over, whatever. I haven't been watching no basketball anyway. Me and Brian watched one Laker game. We watched two. They lost one. They won one, which is good enough, I guess. So whatever, man. We'll see what happens next year. You can't rely on AD. You can't rely on a 38-year LeBron to carry you every single game.
Definitely can't rely on AD. But Brian, let me ask you this question. Let's just say next year goes by, Lakers don't win a title. So it'll be like 4 years. And Lakers
they're not going to win a title next year.
No, right, exactly. So I'm with you on that. So next year happens, they don't win a title. I think it's been 4 years LeBron would have been here. One title. Do you consider his time in LA? Would you consider it a failure after 4 years and just one title?
No. Once you win a title for a place, you've accomplished the goal. I'm well known. I'm not a LeBron fan, but he did what he came to do in winning that one. The question will be whether or not he's patient enough to stick around to see about a second one. The one thing that LeBron has proven everywhere he goes is he's a horrible GM, horrible front office man. He's just bad. But yeah, he accomplished the goal. He came, he won a championship. Some will argue that was an easier one. I would argue that it's a harder one.
Yeah, definitely hard.
And we sniffed success. I mean, everyone here and most people we know wanted us to re-sign AD. And it was playing with LeBron and winning that championship that made that possible. Now, it hasn't worked out the way we wanted it and thought about it when we were going to sign him, but that's what we all wanted, and we got what we wanted. None of us wanted Westbrook, but unfortunately that comes with the territory with LeBron. The only thing I'll say is all the coaching stuff, the best coach for the Lakers next year is Vogel. Quinn Snyder, he's not that dude yet.
Mm-hmm.
Doc Rivers, isn't that dude ever.
Hell no. Yeah.
But and the problem with Doc is that he will allow LeBron to run the team. And the one thing that we know is LeBron can't run a team. He is an outstanding, maybe one of the greatest ever basketball players, but he is not a front office guy. He is not a team manager. He's not a GM.
Okay, let me defend LeBron one time. In Cleveland, when he got rid of Andrew Wiggins and brought in Kevin Love and told pretty much all them other guys to scoot, they did win a title that 1 year with him with Kyrie, but then that was it. But that was it.
Great. He's great at mortgaging the future for that one opportunity. He did it for us. It worked out.
Yep.
And he did it for Cleveland, and it worked out. And Dave Chappelle, I was listening to his 846 special this morning, and in one part he was talking about LeBron, and he said nobody faults LeBron. Like, LeBron came, gave us a championship, and said, "All right, I'm going to LA," and everyone was kind of like, "Yeah, I get it."
Yeah.
And I think that would probably be the same feeling about LeBron if LeBron ultimately decides to move on and do something different or go play with his son or whatever. We'd be like, yeah thanks, man, for the memories.
Right.
Do what you got to do. I hope he stays, but it is what it is. Right. Not the same feelings we had towards Dwight Howard.
Yeah.
Did nothing, delivered nothing. He's back and I like him now, but I hated him for what he did to the Lakers.
Well, we're Laker fans. We don't really burn jerseys. We don't do stuff like that. If you want to leave, we just say bye. You know what I mean? We say bye. Go ahead. Yeah.
What do y'all think? Is there any other team that y'all are thinking like, damn, they had a chance and they blew up?
Yeah.
One last one.
Brooklyn. I mean, yes. Brooklyn clinched a play-in berth, right? So the entire Eastern playoffs is now set. And Brooklyn clinched a play-in berth. Congratulations to them. This is supposed to be the superstar team that started their season with Harden and Kyrie, and Kyrie's back now, and they still can't win. The chemistry just has never been there. They've never been able to establish that. And you can say that it was Kyrie not being able to play home games, but that's not it. Because the reason they wanted to play together is they're supposed to be best buddies and had all these experiences on the USA team, all three of them. The reality of it is that the style of basketball that they're trying to play isn't a style of basketball that wins championships. And it's easy to break that. And ultimately when KD got hurt, things fell apart. And they're, what are they now? They're
41 and 38.
Yeah, but they're fourth in the Atlantic.
Yeah.
Not in the conference, in the Atlantic. They were supposed to be. I think they were the prohibitive favorites at the beginning of the season.
They were.
With the Lakers second, and Milwaukee third, and I think it should have been Milwaukee second, but that's the way it was. And they're two of those three teams suck.
Yeah, well, we were on that again. We said at the beginning, that whole Kyrie, Durant, Harden, everybody's fawning over that. If they play Milwaukee again, I'm taking Milwaukee. That's a team. They know how to play basketball together. They're not perimeter oriented and just jacking up shots. It's actually funny to see Brooklyn the way it is because, everybody thought and they thought they were just doing the right thing. And Kevin Durant wants to be LeBron so bad. He just wants to build his own team and blah, blah, blah. And it just doesn't seem to work out for him. Ever since he left the Warriors, really hasn't worked out for him. He's gotten hurt, picked Kyrie as a teammate, picked Harden as a teammate, and Harden wanted to leave. And, Kyrie is just Kyrie. So, I don't feel sorry for any of them. This is what they wanted to do, and they have to sort of lay with it. I think they also got a first-year coach with Steve Nash as well. So they didn't really get an experienced veteran coach to handle Second year, yeah. So they didn't, oh well for Brooklyn. But I think, the way things are looking at now, I think we might have a rematch in last year, Milwaukee and Phoenix, but we'll see.
And would that disappoint anyone?
No,
I mean, that was a good
mind.
series.
Yeah.
That's young talent. Yeah. Some of the things that Giannis has been doing of late, I've watched a few of his games.
Yep.
It's hard to find holes. I mean, he's even becoming a shooter. Not a great shooter. He's not going to be, but he's becoming a game shooter. Where when it gets late and he needs to go and find that bucket, he can do it. And yeah, I think that would be a really exciting
Yeah.
finals, even if it was just a rematch. Yeah, there's just not enough basketballs on a basketball court for Kyrie Harden at the beginning of the season. Now Ben Simmons has done the same crap he did to Philadelphia now to Brooklyn. He's not playing, hasn't
Right.
played, and he's like, oh, maybe I'll come out in the middle of the playoffs. If you're Nash, you're like, nah, you sit your butt down. We do not need to try and figure out how to get your cantankerous butt involved in this offense and everything for the first time in the middle of the playoffs. Like, that's not when you experiment.
That guy does not love basketball. He just doesn't. He doesn't love
No,
basketball.
he loves money.
Right. Money and fame.
He loves money. And it's unfortunate because we have seen players deal with some stuff. Greg Oden, I think, loved basketball
Yeah.
a hell of a lot more than Ben Simmons, and
Right.
he got unlucky health wise. Markel Fultz, for what people say, I think loved basketball, or at least appreciated basketball more than Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons is not anyone that anyone will. I hope he enjoys all the money he's going to get. He's going to be rich forever.
Yeah.
And I hope he enjoys whichever Kardashian he gets after they all break up with whoever they got now.
Right.
He's already been with one of them, I believe. So, but that's all his career is going to be about.
Yeah. GB?
Word up. Nah, I got nothing to say, man. I'm not even gonna act like I watch basketball, bro. I watched more college games than I've watched NBA games for sure in the last 2 weeks. So I'm not even gonna pretend like I know what's going on. Don't even care. I'm ready for football. And also ready for the Masters, man, as we transition. So, obviously I'm a golfer. I love the game. Was out hitting golf balls today. Masters week, man. So Jason, I don't know if you're into it. I know Brian is, but
well, Tiger's playing. I like to watch Tiger. So
yeah, man. Yeah, Tiger said he's gonna do it, and they said he looked great out there on the range. So we'll see if he can last through the 4 days. He got a shot.
The person who said that he looks great out there is literally one of his closest friends, and Fred Couples. But Fred Couples is a very smart guy. He knows a lot about golf and about Tiger's game. And if he says that he looks pretty strong, great. Let's hope that that's the way that works out. The Masters week is, whatever you want to call it, the Super Bowl of golf, the NCAA tournament of golf, whatever it is. It's the biggest event, the biggest stage for golf. And that's in part because of the legacy of the course, just how beautiful the course looks, at least on TV. And then the difficulty behind it. It's one of those courses that's consistently difficult. What I mean by that is that people are winning that tournament at -10. And for people who watch golf regularly, and for people who don't watch golf regularly, you get a lot of -20s, 20 unders, 7 or 8 under par per round. You get big numbers, and you always have the Open, which is everywhere, and they make the course difficult to do that. But the Masters is consistently difficult. It's considered one of the hardest walks in all of golf, which is going to be a big deal for Tiger Woods. And so, it is outstanding. The other thing that they do an amazing job of, Jason, I don't know if you've ever noticed this, the Masters does not put itself on TV until noon Pacific. And so the only way to watch the Masters prior to that, when they go live, is streaming. You go to masters.com, you can go to a couple of golf.com, whatever, and you can watch the featured group, Amen Corner, and usually holes 15 or 16, they'll have cameras on there, but you can't just watch the whole thing.
Sorry.
And so folks are watching Amen Corner, trying to get a glimpse of the people that they're betting on or whatever. But yeah, there's one reason that this tournament is going to be super exciting for everyone. That's because at 7:34 a.m., Tiger Woods is going to be teeing off with Louis Oosthuizen and Joaquin Niemann. And I don't think either of those two have ever experienced the fear. I mean, maybe they played with him before, but not in a situation like this where he's coming for the first time. And it's certainly, there's never been a 7:34 tee time where if you were living anywhere in the neighborhood surrounding Augusta, you don't need an alarm clock
Right.
because you will absolutely know when you get to 7:30 in the morning.
Right. And this is Thursday morning, right?
Yeah, Thursday morning.
Yeah. So I'll be up. I'll already be up working, but yeah, my TV will definitely on watching Tiger tee off. So I don't play as much golf as you and Glenn. I would love to. I really would love to. I remember the last time we went, I had so much fun. I don't think I did that bad, as bad as I thought I would do. But I really like golf, and it's something I really want to play more in the future. But I only watch, to be perfectly honest with everybody, I only watch golf when Tiger plays. That's it.
Most people, that's what they do.
And so he's playing on Thursday. He's teeing off, like Brian said, 7:34 a.m. I'll be watching at 7:34 a.m. Tiger is the person that got me interested in golf and how I learned about golf. And so, despite whatever people want to say about him, I just look at the athlete for what he's done athletically, and what he's done for golf, has impacted my life and wanting to play golf. So I'm definitely going to be watch Tiger. There are also a couple other golfers, who are pretty good. But
there's lots of great golfers.
Yeah, but I don't really watch them. So yeah.
I was talking about this with someone earlier today. The thing that Tiger did was, whether you loved him or you hated him, you were watching to see what he did.
Right.
And since he has been out, we've had, Rory was supposed to be the next big thing. Jordan Spieth's supposed to be next big thing. Justin Thomas supposed to be DJ.
Yeah. Yep.
Scotty Scheffler, who's the number one in the world, most people didn't know existed until 2 weeks ago.
Right.
There's a ton of these talented guys, but no one can hold the spot.
Yeah.
Bubba Watson was a big thing because he had these crazy swings, and there's nobody who has been able to capture the attention for as long. I mean, there literally used to be a bet in Vegas where it was Tiger Woods or the field.
Yeah. Right. Right. That's right.
You could bet the field because he was winning 33% of the time.
Yeah.
Most of these people have a good career if they win once a season.
Yeah.
Or three to five times over the entirety of a decade.
Yeah.
He was winning 33% of the time. It's insane.
Yeah.
So, Glenn, do you have anything you wanted to add? Yeah.
Any thoughts on the Masters?
I'm just excited, bro. I'm a Tiger Woods fan, like you said, man. I'm a Charlie Woods fan. You know what I mean? Tiger's a man, bro. Like, it's like you said, he got us into golf. I remember watching the Masters in '96 with my parents. My parents don't care about no golf, but what he meant to the game, what he means to us, and he's that dude as far as golf is concerned. Period. So
it was funny.
I'm excited. I'm glad he's playing.
That was funny about the Masters in '96, man, because I think he won it by 12 strokes. And what was so funny was I watched that to the last round or whatever, and people were asking other people about Tiger, and nobody could really say it. He was just it was just like nobody really had an answer for how badly he beat everybody and what he was doing. That's how you knew you were watching something. You were watching something special. So
dude is cold, man. Dude is cold. He's been nice since like 3. Yeah. So his dad was on him and it worked. So Masters week, everybody's excited about that. So you got that coming up this week. That's pretty much our show, man. So I'm excited as always to do the show with you guys. And thank you guys for letting me host and be a part of it. It's our last segment, man. So if you guys got one of you wants to jump into it, go ahead.
Quick. I just saw that we haven't had the NFL draft yet, but the over/under win totals for each NFL team is out now, according to Caesar's Sportsbook. And I was looking at the over/under win totals, of course, for our teams. 49ers is 10.5 wins. Brian, the Vikings is 9, and for the Raiders, it's 8.5 for you, Glenn. But the one I was really I really just keyed in on, because we had talked about the Tyreek Hill signing, and I always said Tua is the quarterback. He's not that good. I'm not sure how much of an impact it's going to have. Well, the over/under win total for the Miami Dolphins is only 8.5 wins, even with Tyreek Hill. So I don't think Vegas too much buys into this free agent wide receiver acquisition for the Miami Dolphins of Tyreek Hill. That's really going to impact the team in the wins column. Of course, we still have the draft coming up, and we have to see how the season plays out. But I think Vegas is probably looking at the Dolphins like me. As long as Tua is the quarterback, I'm not sure how high you're going to, or how good you're going to be with Tua as your quarterback. But that's all I wanted to say, because that over/under win total just really caught my attention. B?
Will Smith is a punk. That's what I wanted to say. But I'm going to tie it into sports. If you all haven't seen what Kareem wrote, which was a very long kind of essay about that whole situation, it's worth reading. Kareem was very thoughtful about what he said, and the reasons why it was such a problem, and that's that.
Okay. Speaking of that, man, I'm with you on that. Will Smith was a sucker for that. And the thing about it, what I'm mad about a lot of things. I'm not even going to elaborate, but that was the first all black produced Oscar production. And look what they had to go through.
Got
They had
lost.
to go through that nonsense. Ridiculous.
Yeah,
But
got
anyway,
lost.
go ahead, GB.
You guys found a way to do it.
I tied it into sports.
Damn, you guys
I
found a way
tied
to
it into
do it. I
sports.
know. You guys found a way to do it because man, this is how I know you guys are my family. I was like, please, I don't want to talk about this no more. And you said it with a smile too. I already know. I ain't mad. Man, I really got nothing, bro. I'm just gonna give my shout out to the Kansas men's team. They balled out, won the championship, well deserved. And South Carolina, the women's team, balled out. Shout out to Coach Staley, man. Super happy for them. That's really all I got, man. That's our show for today, April 5th, 2022, Sports Counterpoints podcast. Give us a like on YouTube. Check us out on your favorite podcast platform, and we'll see you guys soon.